Support Name Explain on Patreon for ad-free videos, exclusive podcasts and blog posts, and to help choose what names get explained. Click the link in the description.
Fruit is important. That might not be the most groundbreaking fact you've heard today, but I couldn't think of a better way to start today's video. Not only does it sustain our being and is healthy for us, but parts of the world can prosper due to the fruit they grow. Think about all the states of the USA that are heavily linked with a specific fruit, or even Honduras, which was the original banana republic, which wasn't exactly a good thing, but it hammers home my point about how dependent on fruit some parts of the world can be. The importance of fruit can even bleed into the world of place names. There are many parts of the world named after fruit for a variety of reasons. A list of towns in the USA with fruit-based names include the likes of Mango, Florida, Apple Creek, Ohio, Plum City, Wisconsin, and Orange, California, just to name a few. A bit further afield, however, is the city of Granada in Spain, named after pomegranates because they were grown in the area. Fruit appear all the time in the names of places and settlements, though today there's one particular fruit I want to focus on, that being the coconut. Coconuts are quite weird things, aren't they? They are native to Southeast Asia but have found themselves at home all across the globe by now. As well as having edible flesh inside, they also produce a kind of water, and another liquid that we have dubbed coconut milk. Their fibrous outsides can be turned into a durable fabric, and their shells have found uses ranging from musical instruments, a type of clothing, and as trusty steeds. One source even claims that coconuts kill 150 people each year. I guess this is from falling from a height. They're not just all bloodthirsty killers. There's an old joke about coconuts claiming that because they are hairy and produce milk, they should be classified not as a fruit, but as a mammal instead. As I mentioned, they're pretty weird things. This weirdness even plays into the origin of their names too, as the name of coconut comes from the world of the weird and the paranormal. This is because the coconut is named after the cocoa. Hearing that may have sent a shiver down your spine depending on who you are exactly. If you happen to be a small child from a Spanish or Portuguese speaking part of the world, then you may very well be terrified. This is because the cocoa is a creature from Iberian folklore used to scare small children into behaving. It's often compared to the bogeyman. Naughty children often be told that if they do not behave, the cocoa will come and take them away. It's a silly story, but it seems to do the trick as the creature is still being talked about to this day. What the cocoa looks like, however, varies across cultures. In some cultures, the cocoa is humanoid in form, with a vegetable for the head with eyes and mouths carved into it. This of course relates heavily to the jack-o'-lantern we have today for Halloween. However, in some other cultures, the cocoa is something else entirely, that being a dragon. While it's interesting to know that these cultures see the cocoa as a dragon, it's the former form of a humanoid creature with a fruit-carved face that we're more interested in today, for reasons which I'm sure are becoming clear. By the 15th century, Europeans were well into their explorations of the wider world, and coconuts had already been discovered by them and names for them had been recorded. One name that was used for them was the tenga, which comes from the native Indian Malayalam language. It was also known as the Nux indica, which simply means Indian nut in Latin. However, it was in the year 1498 that these names would be completely thrown out the window and another would start to be used instead. It was in this year that Vasco da Gama, a Portuguese explorer, was navigating around the Cape of Good Hope to arrive in India. It was during these travels that he and his crew came across these weird fruits, and they were enamored by them. Their striking look reminded them of something back home, that being the cocoa. This was because of the 3 holes at the front of the coconut looking like a face. As said, the cocoa creature was seen as having a face carved out of a fruit/vegetable, so it makes all the sense in the world as to why the fruit would remind them of the monster. Because of this, they named the fruit after the monster and dubbed it the cocoa. It was under this name that the fruit would be brought back to Europeans, and the name stuck around. It was only later on the word nut would be applied to it too. As I said, this fruit is weird all the way down to its name, as it was named after a creature from folklore. However, other sources claim that it was the other way round, and that the monster was named after the fruit. Overall, it seems that the word cocoa relates to an old Celtic word meaning things like head/skull, which makes sense too, as the cocoa monster was known for its vegetable head, and the coconut itself does look somewhat like a head, so it's easy to see why we aren't sure exactly what was called cocoa first. I personally believe it was the monster which then named the fruit. That's a far more enjoyable story anyway. So that's how the coconut ended up with its name. However, that's also something of a tangent. Aren't these Wednesday videos supposed to be about place names? Well, we're getting there. As I'm sure you can tell, Europeans took a very keen interest in the coconut. It really is unlike anything that grew on the shores of Europe at the time. Because of their uniqueness, many places got named after them. An example with Coconut Creek, a city in Florida named after the fact that coconuts were grown there. Do we also have more than just a city in Florida named after these nuts? We have an entire island named after coconuts, that being the Cocos Islands. This tiny chain of islands is part of the Australian Indian Ocean Territory. It's made up of 2 atolls and 27 coral islands. Of all of these, just 2 are actually inhabited. Unsurprisingly, it has a pretty small population of around 600 people, with the majority of the people being Cocos Malay, the name of the main ethnic group and language of the islands. What it lacks in people, however, it more than makes up for in coconuts, as one of the main producers of this island are coconuts, so much so that these islands were of course named after them. The coconuts on these islands played quite a large role in its history. The first European to truly settle the island was John Cluny-Ross, a Scotsman who set up on the land in 1827 and improved coconut production there. The Cluny-Ross family had a stronghold on these islands. Even by the time they became part of the British Empire in 1857, the family still held power here. All this power because of the coconuts. Even by the time the islands changed hands from British rule to Australian rule in 1955, the Cluny-Ross family held most of the power and land there. It was only in 1978 that the family relinquished most of their land and authority over the island to the Australian government. And then in just 1993, the last house the family owned on the island was sold. You may, however, know these islands by a completely different name, that being the Keeling Islands. This name goes all the way back to when the islands were first spotted by Europeans, that being William Keeling, a British sea captain who spotted the islands for himself in 1609. This explains why they are known as the Keeling Islands, as they were spotted by someone called Keeling. So what name is correct for these islands? Are they called the Cocos Islands or the Keeling Islands? Well, like a lot of things in Australia, both answers are correct, as these islands are one of the many examples of Australian dual naming. This is something we've covered in the past on this channel. A key example is with Uluru/Ayers Rock. As Australia is a nation with strong ties to European settlement, it means many places were given European names and their native names were tossed aside. Luckily, however, more indigenous names are returning in the ways of these dual names. Officially, this chain of islands are known as the Cocos (Keeling) Islands. This is actually quite unique in the world of Aussie dual naming. These dual names are usually highlighted with a /. Here, however, the other name is enclosed in brackets. This way of presenting the name was formally introduced in 1955 with the aptly titled Cocos Keeling Islands Act. It's also unique in the fact that neither of these names are indigenous. The Keeling name came from an Englishman and the Cocos name came from Europeans who noticed coconuts on the island. Most of the time, these Australian dual names present a native and foreign name. Unless I'm mistaken and the natives were also calling this place Cocos, and me being wrong is always a valid option. The aforementioned John Cluny-Ross simply named them the Borneo Coral Islands when he first got there, due to their proximity to Borneo. These islands not only show us just how important coconuts can be, but also show us somewhere named after the fruit. However, the more incredible thing is that there's actually another island on the other side of the world with this exact name. This Cocos Island lies in the Pacific Ocean, off the coast of Central America. It is administered by the nation of Costa Rica. In Spanish, it is known as Isla del Coco, and from what I can gather, the island is most well known for its breathtaking natural beauty, much like the rest of Costa Rica. The entire place is deemed a national park and it has no permanent residents, other than park rangers however. While coconuts may not actually be native to this part of the world, it seems to have been able to grow here pretty happily. So much so that the island is of course named after these fruit that grow here. However, another theory I really enjoyed about this name origin is that it was named after coconuts because, like actual coconuts, the island had a huge abundance of water on its inside. The island seems to also be known as Treasure Island, simply due to the natural treasures that it houses. This island's history doesn't seem to contain any power-hungry families, however. It seems it was first discovered by Europeans in 1526 and then came under formal Costa Rican rule in 1832. From here, it has remained a perfectly peaceful island, untouched by the modern world. Well, minus the foreign coconuts that got planted there and gave it its name. That's 2 islands known to be named after coconut. However, good old Wikipedia's disambiguation list gives us even more. This includes a Cocos Islands in the Gulf of Panama, one in Guam, Mauritius, the Seychelles, and even Tonga. Coconut islands are just as plentiful as the fruit itself. These all go to show us just how much naming power the coconut has had. Thanks to its ability to give us food and water and its unique shape, people have become really attached to these guys and have named so many places after them. Not too bad for a pretty weird fruit. And yes, I'm very aware that coconuts are not actually a fruit but in fact a type of drupe. However, I enjoy annoying people too much to resist not calling it a fruit. I am very sure that many of you have already told me it's not a fruit down in the comment section before you finish watching this video. Cocos Island was suggested by Vincio Ledesma, and thanks to their suggestion, they will now be honoured as Name Explain's patron saint of the Cocos Islands. Do you have a good idea for somewhere that's name could be covered in a Name Explain video? If so, then please consider donating on Patreon. Just $1 a month helps keep the channel running and earns you a weekly chance to suggest somewhere to be turned into a video, and you too could be a Name Explain Patreon saint.
Thank you to all my patrons who support Name Explain on a monthly basis. Patreon is vital to Name Explain, and donating just $2 a month allows you to enjoy ad-free videos and bonus Patreon exclusive content. It also allows you to help choose what names get explained in upcoming videos, and gets your name here with all these awesome people. Thank you so much for all the support you guys give Name Explain. Thank you so much for reaching the end of the video. Check out another video and subscribe to stay in the loop on all things Name Explain. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram where I'm Name Explain YT, and also join the Facebook group Friends of Name Explain, both of which will be linked down below. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and once again, thank you all so much.